Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here. Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to Reganelite's Global News episode 93 here on the 2nd of December 2025 at 6 p.m. UK time. We are dual streaming live on youtube.com/Reganelite and on twitch.tv/Reganelite1. For those who are new to this live stream, what we normally do here is we cover various topics of global news. And I want to start by offering a sincere apology. At the time of this live stream, I have not put in all the links to everything that I'm covering tonight. So I will do that at the end of this live stream, guys. I have to timestamp it anyway. So again, my apologies for not putting them up. So my apologies because normally what I do before the live stream, you guys actually get to see what the headlines are, and I haven't done that, and I do apologize. It was something my friend always told me to do very early on in my streams to make sure people know exactly where you're getting your sources from, and I haven't done that. So my apologies. I will do that at the end of the after this live stream here. So my apologies. Vicky, good to see you there. Hope you are doing well. It's 1 p.m. here in Ohio. I hope you are doing well, Vicky. Thank you again for that super chat earlier this morning in my time. Hope you are doing well. I hope you have a wonderful day, whatever your plans are over there. And Pete's Music, good to see you there. Hope you are doing well. And anybody else who may be lurking in the chats as well. So the first story I want to start off with is one from the Associated Press. Really, one of the big stories really going on in America here, and that is with regards to the alleged drug boats. Guys. So the White House. The White House, of course, is under a great deal of scrutiny, and rightfully so. They have struck more than 20 times on alleged drug cartel boats in the Caribbean Sea, claiming to be Venezuelan drug trafficking here, drug trafficking in the Caribbean, transferring drugs from Venezuela, using the Caribbean islands and whatnot, going through that channel towards the United States. This is what they're claiming. They're claiming that they're doing this to stop the drug smuggling in. This is the story that the Trump administration is painting, and they consider this a major problem. Managed to catch it before I sneezed there. My apologies. So this is what they are saying. They're claiming that they are targeting drug traffickers, drug lords, drug cartels, and they basically are taking them out before they can bring the drugs to the US. This is the side that the Trump administration has been making. Apologies for the sneezing there. The problem is, and I've spoken about this on Patreon, and I'm going to speak about it here. The problem is that there is no evidence that points to. There's no concrete evidence that says that these boats are definitely carrying drugs, that these boats are definitely carrying narcotic terrorists or cartel members. We have no way of knowing that whatsoever. All we can do is take the government's word for it. And the problem is, this government has a habit of not being completely honest with the American public, or with the world for that matter. And questions about international law have been brought up, and rightfully so, because one of the strikes that took place in early September was quite a shocking one, which was revealed by the New York Times, correct me if I believe it was, in where they struck a boat, and 2 people survived the strike. And then an order was made to ensure that those 2 people that survived the first strike were killed. Now, you tell me whether that's okay or not. So before I play, we read in what it actually says here. Here's Caroline Levitt. She was responding to questions with regards to this here. So the White House said on Monday that a Navy admiral ordered a second strike on the alleged drug boat in the Caribbean Sea and insists that its September attack has come under bipartisan scrutiny was lawful. This is what they are insisting, okay?
Does the administration deny that second strike happened, or did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order?
The latter is true, Abe, and I have a statement to read for you here. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war.
Now, here's the thing, before you even go any further here. According to the laws of war, well, you're not technically at war with Venezuela. You've not actually issued a declaration of war against the country of Venezuela here. It's really important. The context really matters here. Like, the United States of America is not officially at war with the country of Venezuela. And in order for them to do so, you need to get approved by Congress anyway. So, I'm not neck deep in American politics and in the ins and outs of what is law and what's not. But I do know that America cannot go to war without approval from Congress. That I'm pretty certain of.
With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated.
So, and again, here's the thing. Like, you're saying that they are this drug cartel, like the rest of them, were threats to the United States. They have been eliminated. We're talking about drugs here, okay? We're not talking about 9/11 level of terrorists who are coming in ready to bomb certain buildings. We're not stating that. We're talking about drugs here. We're talking about narco-terrorist drugs or cartels, which is what they're stating here. We're talking about drugs here, okay? We're not talking about people who are going to blow up a building or are suicide bombers or anything of that level, okay? We're talking about people smuggling in drugs, yeah, gang cartels. That's a really important distinction here. Now, is it bad? Should it be stopped? Absolutely, we all agree with that. But is there any kind of justification for wiping these people out without any evidence whatsoever to bring to us that these are definitely narco-terrorists? There's no evidence. At the time of this recording, I've not seen any evidence that supports this claim. Martin, good to see you there. I hope you're doing well.
You said that the follow-up strike was lawful. What law is it that allows no survivors?
There is no law. There is no law. That's the straight answer is there is no law. She will just she's just going to give a ramble answer. But there is no law stating that they are allowed to do this. I'm just going to point out the obvious if you haven't figured it out. The United States of America breached international law and killed innocent people, allegedly. They breached international law, that is certain. But unless they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that every single one of these strikes are all guilty narco-terrorists here, then the perception is, and rightfully so, is that innocent people are being killed here in the Caribbean Sea by the United States military. Because again, the country is not officially at war with Venezuela.
The strike conducted on September 2nd was conducted in self-defense to protect Americans in vital United States interests.
Self-defense, okay? So she's claiming, they're claiming that the United States struck them in acting of self-defense, guys. And again, we're talking about drugs here. This does not wash with me. This does not wash with me, and hopefully it doesn't wash with you guys.
The strike was conducted in international waters and in accordance with the law of armed conflict.
So was the initial order from Secretary Hegseth, everyone be killed, and did that come from President Trump?
I saw that quoted in a Washington Post story. I would reject that the Secretary of War ever said that. However, the president has made it quite clear that if narco-terrorists, again, are trafficking illegal drugs towards the United States, he has the authority to kill them. And that's what this administration is doing.
Again, there's no evidence whatsoever that they are all drug cartels, and there have been allegations that innocent fishermen who fish in the Caribbean Sea, because there are fishermen in the Caribbean Sea, have been killed by these strikes as well, which the U.S. government has denied, by the way, as well. There have been those reports from the Caribbean, from the Caribbean islands as well. So you also have those allegations coming out as well. It just stinks like that. I don't know what exactly is the U.S. government trying to do here. Because what are they trying to do here? Like, are they going to invade Venezuela because there's a talk about whether they're going to invade them? Are they actually going to invade the country? I don't know. And the thing is, they can't unless they have approval of Congress. But are they just going to ignore Congress and just go to war anyway? I'm kind of hard to let that sink. It's kind of hard to believe that. And the thing is, do we really want this? Do you really think Pete Hegseth is going to be able to command the U.S. Army in a way that will make sure that it will successfully invade Venezuela without the loss of American lives? No, I don't think so. It does feel like a bit like Vietnam, doesn't it? A little bit. So the White House said on Monday that a Navy admiral acted within his authority and the law when he ordered a second and follow-up strike on an alleged drug boat in the Caribbean Sea in a September U.S. operation that came under bipartisan scrutiny. Caroline Leavitt offered a justification of strikes as lawmakers announced that there will be congressional reviews of the U.S. military strikes against vessels suspected of smuggling drugs in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific Ocean. The lawmakers cited a published report that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth issued a verbal order for the second strike that killed survivors on the boat. The Vice Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley, who Leavitt said ordered the second strike, is expected to provide a classified briefing on Thursday to lawmakers overseeing the military. Leavitt, in her comments to reporters, did not dispute a Washington Post report that there were survivors after the initial strike. Her explanation came after President Donald Trump, a day earlier, said that he wouldn't have wanted that, not a second strike, when asked about the incident. So it sounds like here President Donald Trump didn't want the strike on innocent people, allegedly. Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley conduct these kinetic strikes, said Leavitt. Admiral Bradley worked well, ... Yeah, we read that bit. We've heard that bit from her already. Apparently, Admiral Bradley is an American hero from Pete Hegseth. A month after the strikes, Bradley was promoted from Commander of the Joint Special Operations Command to Commander of the U.S. Special Operations Command. Concerns over the Trump administration's military strikes against the alleged drug smuggling boats has been building in Congress, but details of this follow-on strike stunned many lawmakers from both parties and generated stark questions about the legality of the attacks and the overall strategy in the region, and particularly towards Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The lawmakers said they did not know whether last week's Post report was true, and that some Republicans were skeptical. Still, they said the reported attacking of survivors in the initial missile strike poses serious concerns and merit further scrutiny. The White House weighed in after Trump on Sunday vigorously defended Hegseth. Pete said he did not order the death of those two men, Trump said, and added, and I believe him. Who are we going to believe? The Washington Post with the quotes, or are we going to believe President Donald Trump? I think we know who we're going to likely to believe there. Leavitt said Hegseth has spoken with members of Congress who have expressed some concerns about the reports over the weekend. General Dane Can, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, also spoke over the weekend with the two Republicans and two Democrat lawmakers leading the Senate and House Armed Service Committee. He reiterated his trust and confidence in the experienced commanders that every elation, I think if I can pronounce that word, apologies, Kane said in a statement. Statement added that the call focused on addressing the intent and legality of the mission to disrupt illicit trafficking networks which threaten the security and stability of the Western Hemisphere. Again, we're talking about drugs again. Yeah, this is drugs. This is not like World War III here. It's not like people are It's not like they're plotting. Again, it's not like 9/11. But that's the level they're trying to put it at. To be fair, Joe, good to see you there. I hope you are doing well. Senate Majority Leader John Thune on Monday broadly defended the operations, echoing the Trump administration's position that they're necessary to stem the flow of illegal narcotics to the United States. Thune said the committees in Congress will look into what happened. A quote, I don't think you want to draw any conclusions or deductions until you have all the facts, he said at the September 2nd strike, and we will see where they lead. Well, is it going to be real facts or is it going to be fabricated facts? Because here's the thing: if they are if the Trump administration are so convinced that these are definitely drug cartels and whatnot, why not provide the facts? Why not just put it in front of us so that they can dismiss any suggestions otherwise? Because while not providing the facts, you leave it to conspiracy theories to assume what you are doing. After the Post report, Hegseth said on Friday on X that fake news is delivering more fabricated, inflammatory and derogatory reporting to discredit our incredible warriors fighting to protect our homeland. Well, you've not provided any evidence publicly yet that proves otherwise. Our current operations in the Caribbean are lawful under both US and international law. This is false. I'm not buying this at all. Until you provide evidence until you provide the evidence there, I'm not accepting this. Like, as far as I'm aware, they've broken international law here, because let's be clear, where they've done these strikes are not in US waters. They're in international waters. With all actions in compliance with the law of armed conflict and approved by the best military civilian lawyers up and down the chain of command, Hegseth wrote. Chuck Schumer called Hegseth a national embarrassment. I don't really care what Chuck Schumer says. He's a dumbass in my view. Roger Wicker of Mississippi, chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, pledged that his panel's investigation would be done by the numbers. You'll find out the ground truth. He said, adding the ramifications to the report were serious charges. Senator Jack Reed, the top Democrat of the committee, also called for the administration to release a video of the strike, said its inquiries will start with briefings about what actually happened from the officials involved. If they've done nothing wrong, then that video should exonerate them completely. Why don't they release it, he asked. In the House, Republican Mike Rogers, the Republican chair of the Armed Services Committee, said he was satisfied following the conversation with Hegseth on the attack, but that he also wanted to hear from Bradley. We will have all clarity on Thursday afternoon, Rogers says. It's going to be very interesting to see what they say there. Trump met later on Monday with his national security team to discuss the ongoing operations and potential steps against Venezuela. The U.S. administration said the strikes are aimed at drug cartels, some of which it claims are controlled by Morado. Trump is also weighing in whether to carry out strikes in the Venezuelan mainland. Again, there's very little. Most of it is in. There's more drugs shipping into America from Colombia and Mexico than there is from Venezuela. Trump's confirmed on Sunday he had recently spoken with Morado, but declined to detail the conversation. Yeah, I said that in the previous live stream. We generally want to know what was said in that conversation. Morado said U.S. president had tested the country, but Venezuelans are ready to defend it and lead it to the path of peace. We have lived through 23 weeks of aggression that can only be described as psychological terrorism, Morado said. He's been made to look like a martyr for the people of Venezuela. You know, from the people of Venezuela who I don't think they like Morado, but at the same time, he's like, you know, it's a kind of strengthening his position, what he's doing as well. Venezuela's National Assembly has announced the launch of an investigation into illegal strikes. Sunday's announcement by the Assembly President, Jorge Rodriguez, was the first time that Morado government officially explicitly acknowledged that Venezuelans have been killed in the months-long U.S. military operation. They said a group of lawmakers will come together to investigate the serious evidence linked to the murder of Venezuelans in the water of the Caribbean Sea. Yeah, here's again, like, we don't have the information. And if they're absolutely certain, again, why not release the videos, which was already mentioned as well. They want the rare earths that are being illegally extracted by mobs in the Orinoco Bastion, because Venezuelans have a trade deal with China and pre-trade deal with the EU to start professional mining operations. Basically, the EU and China have an agreement will both get access to the rare earth minerals in Venezuela. So it's not about the oil then. It's not about the oil, because I generally thought it was about overthrowing Morado and putting in a puppet leader that the Americans can control. The drugs from Venezuela, they get it from Colombia. Yep, you cannot have the crops of coca leaves in Venezuela go to Europe and Africa, not the USA. Yeah. It's more. There's more shipments going to Africa and Europe than they are to America. Yeah, I read that story somewhere as well. Thanks for that, Joe. Yeah, I like. There's not going to be any accountability. I'd like to say there's going to be accountability, but I'm just not going to buy it, guys. Like, really is not on that situation. But we'll see how it goes anyway. One person I do tend to listen to quite a bit when it comes to stuff on the US is Vosh. One or two others, Brian Tyler Cohen's another YouTuber. I don't listen to as much as I used to. I think David Pacman is another one out there, another YouTuber out there listening to. I haven't listened to him for a while, either, to be fair. But there are some good YouTubers out there on the so-called center left who are a lot more on it than I am when it comes to American politics there as well. And that's the latest, not so much as oil and ore can be used in electronics, says Vicky as well. Venezuela's heavy crude Reganelite that the US cannot process. They use light crude. Yeah, but they can't process it? No, I thought they had the facilities to process them, but they've just turned them off. I'm pretty sure they had the facilities originally. I'm pretty sure they did. I'm pretty sure they had the facilities to crude it. The problem is it's just expensive to do so. The problem is I believe it's very expensive to do so. Setting up operations will take decades to use Venezuela's crude. I'm pretty sure they had it already in place, but the problem is it's to do with cost. I believe it was. There's a lot of cost to it. I've generally thought that's what I looked at last time on it. To be fair. So there's another story that's not really been making much headlines in Europe. No, not the war in Ukraine, guys. No, not what's happening in France. No, actually, a country that really hasn't really been getting a lot of attention, and that is Bulgaria, guys. So I'm generally fascinated to hear your thoughts about Bulgaria here. But before I take you to the video, I'm going to share with you. So Bulgaria ditches the budget plan after tens of thousands join protests. The country right now is not in a very good position. So there is a coalition in government at the moment, and they are looking to... There's a deadline coming where the currency is going to be changed from levy, which is levy, I believe the currency is, into euros, because they're obviously switching currency. And obviously they're moving their ties closer to the European Union, which is where the country's direction is going to be going. However, the country is rife in a lot of corruption, and there are things in particular in this budget that are not very good or very helpful to especially the younger generation, the next generation of youngers. And we've spoken not just even in the UK and in the US, but we've spoken about how the next generation of youngsters in many Western nations are feeling like they're being left out. And are not getting a fairer deal, and that they're being forced to work hard and getting less money, and it's a very unjust. And you're having this same situation here in Bulgaria. So I want to take you to this clip. I'm not going to play all of it, but I want to play some of it to give us a bit more of an understanding of what's actually happening in Bulgaria here. So the lady you're going to be hearing is from Marina Simeonova, just for reference here. She is the head of Sophia's office. Her area's expertise of EU foreign policy, Bulgaria in the EU and the Western Balkans, just for reference here. But I'm not going to play all of it, but I wanted to kind of play this to kind of give you guys a bit of a background to what's actually happening in Bulgaria here, guys. I'm going to turn on the captions as well for you guys. Wait a second, I just noticed the video is not very good. Hold on a second, let me adjust the video cam. I just noticed it's not very good. 1 second, let me see if I can adjust that for you guys. Right, there we go. Right, let's have a listen. Bear in mind, this is from 3 days ago. So this was from 3 days ago, by the way. I just want to reference that as well, because there have been new protests recently. But this is the latest analysis video that I could find, because most videos I found online is just the actual protest. But I wanted to bring some information to you guys about this.
First of all, hello and thank you for having me. So there was a very big protest in Sofia on Wednesday evening, provoked by the budget 2026 that was adopted on first and second reading. The protest itself was attended by thousands of Bulgarians and is considered to be one of the biggest protests in the past more than a decade even. The reason for the discontent of the people is basically the effect of the budget, and mostly the effect on the middle class and on the business. And as you pointed out, it was the opposition in Bulgaria that was leading the protest and encouraged people to go on the streets and express their dissatisfaction with those numbers that will put in jeopardy people's salaries, but also the business itself.
So the government decided to withdraw the budget proposal, right? But are more demonstration expected on the weekend? Because I guess it's not just about the budget itself, it's about the government.
Exactly. So currently in Bulgaria, we have an official coalition of 3 parties. The biggest political party, GERB, led by Boyko Borisov, longtime Bulgarian prime minister. We have other 2 smaller junior coalition partners, one socialist party and one more like a populist and nationalist party. But the problem is that this coalition is supported by the party that traditionally represents the Turkish minority in Bulgaria, that was recently taken over by the figure Delampevski, who is sanctioned by the governments of the United States, the government of the United Kingdom, sanctioned for corruption, for exercising political influence over the judiciary. So
right there is pretty much, so you've got a political figure who has, you've got a political figure in one of the minority political parties within this the three-party coalition government with two minorities and one majority here. And this person, you have a politician here who has been sanctioned by the US and the UK here. And like I said, the country has its corruption and its issues, and a lot of countries, there are countries that have them. I don't, one of the things I didn't hear in this video in full is that Russia was not mentioned in any way, shape or form in this. Now, I don't know if Russia are playing an influence whatsoever in the politics of Bulgaria. I would not be surprised if there is, but I've not heard anything that says it is directly involved. But it could be just a case of corruption here, where ministers trying to gain influence and power for themselves as well as money in this regard.
So, as you pointed out, the problem is not just the budget itself. Yes, it was the spark, because it directly impacts the income of millions of Bulgarians. But the problem is that a sanctioned Bulgarian politician is dictating Bulgarian politics, because his influence in the ruling coalition, and now even officially supporting the ruling coalition, this is, rightfully provoking protests, and is raising important questions on who is actually ruling the state, who is dictating, sometimes behind the scenes, but more and more often more publicly. And definitely there is this strong Bulgarian community that rejects that the Bulgarian state is ruled by somebody who is sanctioned for such serious crimes.
But how strong is this public dissatisfaction? You know, I'm wondering, given the years of political instability in Bulgaria, should we expect snap elections soon?
I don't know enough about Bulgarian politics to know, but this is a country that's supposed to be steering towards Europe here. But obviously, what they were going to be initiating in their budget last week, which they've kind of turned down, was going to be more taxes on the middle incomers and low incomers, as she pointed out there. So we're talking about people who understandably who work hard, pay their taxes, do their fair share, and they're being asked to pay more for less. And she goes on to say in this video as well, is that people who work for the state get paid a hell of a lot more than people in the private sector as well, which I think raises a lot of questions about the kind of the system that they have here as well. Jow is just going to be, I heard this before in Euronews, says Jow, Portugal went through the same growing pains. I remember it. Bulgaria reminds me a lot of Portugal in the late 80s. Bulgaria do not like Russians. They have Macedonian minorities. Yes, Macedonian, yep, from its history, yeah, there. Turkish minorities, which was mentioned. Muslim minorities, yep. And during the USSR, Bulgaria was under the Iron Heel. Okay. The reason why I said Russia was because I do know Russia is I do know Russians have used it as a tourist destination in the past. That was before the war in Ukraine. From what I saw, this is motivated by a group of corrupt people in government trying to whitewash their past sins, and people do not want them here. So it's a small group within the three political parties here, and you've got somebody who's in there, who is wanted, who is under sanctions by the UK and the US there, that does raise certainly some questions there. I will put a link here for the video in the description at the end of the live stream, guys. But let's have a read some from the BBC's perspective here, guys. So Bulgaria's government said it will withdraw its controversial 2026 budget plan after massive rallies were held against it on Monday night in the capital Sofia and in cities across the country. Tens of thousands of people joined protests to oppose the draft budget, which they said attempted to hide widespread government corruption. Clashes with the police broke out when some masked protesters attacked the office of the ruling conservative GIB party and also of the DPS party in Sofia. The government said on Tuesday today that it would abandon the plan, which also would have raised taxes, and it comes after similar protests broke out last week when the initial plan was submitted to Parliament. Next year's budget will be Bulgaria's first delivered in euros as it joins the Eurozone on the 1st of January. Public opinion over adopting the euro is divided, with some fearing that it could lead to sharp inflation in what is one of the EU's poorest countries. Protest against government corruption has been frequent in Bulgaria, which has been run by a short-lived government since 2020 after protests sparked the end of another GERB-led coalition. Monday's rally is thought to have been the largest in the capital for years, with protesters filling a huge square in front of Parliament carrying signs urging a change in leadership. Significant protests also took place in, I'm not going to mention those names, guys, because I don't want to butcher them, but you can see the names there. Critics of the abandoned budget said they were protesting against increases to social security contributions and taxes on dividends to finance higher spending, as well as state corruption. Quote, "We are here to protect our future. We want to be a European country, not one ruled by corruption and the mafia," Vasilia, a 21-year-old student, told the AFP news agency. And more than 70 people were arrested after mass protests attacked the offices of political parties, according to Sofia's interior affairs chief as well. I should point out, I was looking at a live feed literally an hour ago. Then there are protests building up again tonight already in the capital, as well as other parts of the country. Bulgarian President Ramdin Rabagov called for an end to the violence, which he dismissed as a provocation by the mafia, and urged everyone to obey the law. Quote, "Provocations do not change the facts. Bulgarians said no to this government," he said on the post. He said in a post on Facebook before the budget was abandoned. "There is only one way out: resignation and early elections." As head of state, Rugged holds a largely ceremonial role. The government is currently led by the Prime Minister Rosen. I can't say that surname, guys. I don't want to butcher names if I can help it. Who formed a minority coalition in January 2025 after the centre-right GERB party won October's 2024 elections without a clear majority. A parliamentary committee had adopted a budget plan on the 18th of November, but later said it would delay for allow more time to consult opposition parties, trade unions and employers. After Monday's process, the government issued a short statement saying it will withdraw its draft proposals at the start of a new budget procedure. Bulgaria's opposition party has called for the government to resign, saying abandoning the draft budget is not enough, according to local media. They're using the euro as an excuse, Jal says, to raise salaries for politicians while they keep the salaries and incomes of businesses and employees the same. Yeah, that sounds like bollocks to me, yeah. So they're shielding the changes behind the euro currency as they switch over. That sounds more logical there. Jal also says technically they should have done what Portugal did, adopt a direct convention and then balance up, meaning one estado was worth €2.40 if I recall, taking into consideration inflation costs. It's going to be painful going into the euro for them. It's going to be painful for them when they go into the euro. But I generally hope that they get through this, and I generally hope that in the future it does lead to a lot of corruption, that a lot of corrupt politicians within the country do end up getting ousted. I do hope it heads down that path. I really, really do. Again, I don't know enough about Bulgarian politics, but what I do know is that, like many other nations, there's a lot of youngsters in the next generation who want to see change and want to have better opportunities and better incomes for themselves and for their futures, because the older generation have had it much better for themselves. Our parents and our grandparents have had it better off than the younger generation, and they feel left out. And they want better job protections, they want better rights, they want better pay, and rightfully so. And many of them are being asked to pay more for less, and it's just simply not fair. And this budget does not sound it's in the best interest of the next generation of Bulgarians' future. And it's good to see so many people turning out. I was listening to one or two protesters from different videos where they was saying as well that I think it's like about 77,000 7,000 came out in the capital, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's good that they said that social media was a big help in obviously organising these rallies as well. But I don't want to see an overthrow of government. What I do want to see is they need to understand is that the people are not going to accept being treated as crap here, and I'm glad that they're standing up for themselves, because we don't have that here, unfortunately. Enough people standing up for themselves here. So the next story I've got for you guys is from Al Jazeera here. It's a short one, but I do want to touch on it. I've touched on it in a short video as well, but I do think it's really, really important here. And again, I really do appreciate Pope Leo for doing this here. So he wraps up his Lebanon visit with prayers at the site of the Beirut port blast, capping off a symbolic 3-day visit. The pontiff urged Lebanese unity and the pursuit of peace and justice. So it seems like Israel stopped bombing during this 3-day period, from the sounds of it, from what I gather, which is very, very good. And still to this day, there's been no accountability for those who have been responsible for the Beirut port blast a few years ago, which cost so many lives, and so much destruction was caused was caused as well. And there still has not been accountability for that. And we know, like many other, unfortunately, like a lot of countries, you know, Lebanon is wrapped up in deep corruption as well. We know that those possible responsible are those within possible in this Lebanese government. I wouldn't be surprised one bit. And it really is a case of just the so-called case on this situation is kind of getting shelved, or not really getting enough done about it. But for Pope Leo and this is he's calling, obviously wants to see peace here. He wants obviously the guns to stop firing between what's happening in Gaza. He also wants to, you know, what's the conflict that's still happening, despite the fact there's a ceasefire between Lebanon, Hezbollah and Israel. There is still airstrikes taking place. There is still in skirmishes in some parts, despite the fact that there is supposed to be a border with UN peacekeepers and whatnot. It's still there's still no calm. And I've covered it here. I've covered it on Rumble here, and I think I do generally mean this. It's very brave, and the Lebanese people needed hope, and this was a big hope. This gives the people a lot of pause for hope. You know, listening to the video, you know, a lot of people felt very good about the Pope's visit here, because it really needed that morale boost, you know, in a country that has so many issues, you know, not in the same issues as what's happening in Gaza, but still what they've been through the last several years has been nothing short of really brutal, you know, for the country. And for me, it's more about the people. You know, I really don't trust I don't trust Hezbollah, because I believe they're to a certain extent a terrorist organization. And I don't trust the Lebanese government, because I generally believe that there is deep corruption within it. So Pope Leo has also offered prayers at the site of the 2020 Beirut port blast, one of the final stops in his 3-day visit to Lebanon. The Catholic leader prayed silently and lit a lamp on Tuesday morning at the monument to more than 220 people that were killed and 6,500 injured in the explosion. The United States-born pontiff has urged peaceful coexistence across the Middle East during his inaugural trip abroad. With mounds of rubble and remains of the devastating facility within sight, the pontiff shook hands, blessed, and spoke with each one of the survivors and relatives of the victims who were present. We are very grateful for this visit from the Pope, a lawyer whose brother died in the explosion. We know that he raises his voice for justice, and we need justice for our brothers and all the victims of this explosion. Reporting from Beirut's waterfront, where Leo later held mass, Al Jazeera's Zina Kolla said many Lebanese people see these outreach as a blast site as a powerful gesture. I agree. For the Pope to speak to the families one by one, it really meant a lot, she said. The victims and families of those killed are seeking justice 5 years after the blast, which caused millions of dollars in damage, and it tore through neighborhoods. No official has been convicted in a judicial investigation that has been reported of obstructed, angry Lebanese for whom the blast was just the latest evidence of impunity after decades of corruption and financial crimes. When Leo arrived in Lebanon on Sunday, he urged the country's political leaders to pursue the truth as a means of peace and reconciliation. Shall we have a listen? We can have a listen, I suppose.
Pope Leo.
Yeah, let's have a listen to his arrival. 1 second. I think he does speak in this video for a bit as well.
Comes as Lebanon faces the possibility of renewed conflict after repeated Israeli bombing, despite a ceasefire agreed a year ago. He's set to meet with political leaders representing the country's major religious sects, and he'll also travel the country, meeting members of Lebanon's large Christian community. The pontiff says he's completing a mission his predecessor Pope Francis hoped to fulfil, bringing what he calls a message of hope and peace in the Middle East. On his way to Lebanon, Pope Leo said that the Vatican continues to support a two-state solution for Israel and Palestine.
The Holy See has for many years publicly endorsed the proposal of a solution of two states. We all know that in this moment Israel does not accept that solution, but we see it as the only solution that could offer a solution to the conflict that is still alive. We are also friends of Israel, and we try with both sides to be a voice of mediation that can help get closer to a solution with justice for all.
All right, Alex.
I appreciate the fact that I think he was very careful with his language as well. You know, the Pope obviously doesn't want to, you know, he's a symbol of peace. And obviously because he's an American Pope, he's going to have more eyes on him. The American media are going to have more eyes on him in places that he goes as well. The Pope is trying, and I praise his work. He's acting as the Pope should. Yeah, he's not, you know, he's not political in any way, shape, or form. You know, he just wants peace. He wants these conflicts to stop, and I commend him for it. I really commend him for it. You know, it's a very, the world out there is very toxic, very divided right now. It is very difficult to keep people united, to keep people having faith. You know, it's a very difficult time for a lot of people out there, and Pope Leo's arrival there is really, really helpful. Yeah, a Lebanese where peace and justice reign, where we all recognise each other as brothers and sisters. Yeah, as it should be. We must unite our efforts so that this land can return to its glory, he declared, urging Lebanese people to cast off the armour of our ethnic and political divisions. Well said. Vatican's press service, citing the Lebanese authorities, said some 150,000 people had attended the outdoor ceremony. 150,000 people. I'm not surprised whatsoever. I'm not surprised whatsoever. This means that the turnout was marked smaller than the roughly 300,000 who attended Pope Benedict's 2012 waterfront mass during the last papal visit to Lebanon. Discretionary speaks to mass exodus of Lebanese, including Christians, in recent years, spurred by mounting economic and political turmoil, including deep segregation, strife as well. I felt this is really important. You know, Lebanon has gone through a lot, and I'm very glad that he was making the trip. I knew the trip was coming anyway because he was in Turkey before traveling there. But I think it's a great symbol, and I really hope it's not just words, and that actually people actually do take it on board. It's hard for me to believe it because of the kind of people that are running Lebanon right now, but people need some hope and optimism, and they've been given that by the visit of the Pope. The Pope has to be a symbol of peace and a non-biased referee. Pope does not take sides except the sides of those that have one that speaks for them, and that's why he wasn't criticising Israel. And the Pope's never going to criticise a country, but they're going to ask for peace and ask for, you know, to come to the table and look for solutions. And I'm glad that he's reminding everyone about the two-state solution as well. I don't know if the Pope would ever visit. I don't know if the Pope would ever visit Israel, though. I don't doubt that very, very much. So, guys, I'm going to take a little break here. We've got a couple more stories I've got to share with you guys here. Thank you guys all for being here. I do appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this funny video. We do have our funny memes at the end of this show as well, which is also one of the main reasons why people come out to this live stream in particular. But this one here is from the Exploding Heads. It's a new one from them, calling, I don't mind rainbows, but stop forcing them down my throat. I hope you guys get a laugh out of this.
Colin from Portsmouth is on the line. Hello, Colin.
Every time I see a rainbow, I want to punch it.
Sorry, a rainbow? What have rainbows done to you, Colin?
Well, nothing yet, but their ideology has spoiled what would otherwise be a very pretty weather phenomenon.
Yeah.
And you see more of them these days, of course. I dread clear and sunny periods after rainfall. Dread them!
Well, you know, they are just a harmless natural weather event, Colin, which we should accept.
You would say that in your metropolitan an elite ivory bubble tower. Rainbows have been weaponised, and this country has just stood by and let it happen. Time was a good old-fashioned British leprechaun could sit humbly at the end of one, minding his own business, but now the gays have come in, built a gaudy pub, and imprisoned him in a BDSM sex dungeon built using his own pot of gold.
Sorry, Colin, what is wrong with colours? Although, don't answer that, Colin, don't answer that.
I don't mind a bit of reflection, refraction, and dispersion, but not when it's forced down my throat.
Fair enough.
Anyway, mate, thanks for having me on. Love to the family.
Love to the family, Colin, love to the family. What is acceptable weather in your book, then?
There's nothing straighter than a hurricane, in my view. That's proper wind.
Well, the last one was called Hurricane Quincy.
They've taken our storms now.
Colin...
Oh, you just can't. I love Colin from Portsmouth, guys. It's been a while since I've done a Colin from Portsmouth video, but that was... Yeah, I'm not personally a fan of hurricanes myself, but you know, Colin has his ones there. Love to the family indeed. Like I said, guys, I will put up the links for all for everything that I've done in this live stream at the end of the live, at the end of everything that I've shared at the end of this live stream, guys. So apologies again for not putting it up beforehand. Normally I do, I just haven't had a chance to do so. And just a quick reminder as well, if you haven't already, please hit that like button, share this across social media, consider subscribing to the channel, and if you want to financially support me in any way, you can become a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or you can leave a super chat and help me reach today's super chat goal if possible as well. If you could do one of those two things, greatly appreciate. If not, just by being here, hitting the like button, sharing, and subscribing, leaving comments on my videos, those all help out the channel as well. And I'd like to get to 2,500 subscribers before the end of this year. So if we can get that, it'd be greatly appreciated. So thank you to everyone for all your support. I really do appreciate it. The next story I've got for you guys is with regards to Ukraine and the situation that we have there currently. Not so much the war, but how close are we to, whether or not how close we are to actually a ceasefire potentially taking place here. So US envoy is in Moscow for high-stakes Ukrainian peace talks with Putin. Steve Witkoff is expected to lay out a vision of a plan that has been agreed with Kiev, hoping the Russian leader will compromise it in these hardline demands. I've already seen a photo. He has met Russian President Vladimir Putin. I think this, but I just wanted to share this report here from Ukraine, because we've never actually covered a video where somebody's actually, what is actually, you know, this is what you're going to see is, oh, 1 second, actually, it's the wrong, let me refresh it. 1 second here before it plays the video. Just realised it's there we go. It's only about 1 minute 36, so it's not too long. Right, should be able. Yeah, you guys can see that.
Today, a missile strike without warning in the city of Dnipro. 4 civilians were killed, according to local officials. Ukraine is under diplomatic pressure, too. Ukrainian and U.S. officials met again this weekend to hammer out a peace plan to end the war. Ukraine's President Zelensky today in Paris, seeking European support. I will be honest, the territorial issue is the most complicated, he said. Russia occupies about 20% of Ukraine. President Putin is insisting Ukraine surrender it all and more. This small village was hit by Russian missiles, and afterwards pretty much everyone left. And there are ghost towns like this one all over Ukraine right now. So Ukrainians want the end of this. But they say they also can't accept humiliation or capitulation, believing it would only encourage Russia to do worse. In the village of Nechayane, I found Katerina Volodymyrivna, who's lived here for 70 years. Wow. And now lives alone with her cats. No power or water. They stay warm burning sticks she collects. Do you think the war is going to finish, or do you think that we're just in the middle of it? Everyone is saying that Putin will win, but I don't know, she says. President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, is due to meet with President Putin in Moscow tomorrow to discuss the peace plan. Tom?
You know, seeing that story of the lady and what she's going through and seeing the town there. It's been a while since I've actually looked at video footage of on the ground of Ukraine, and it really does, it really does hurt me, because Putin and Russia have deliberately and intentionally targeted Ukrainian civilians. And I've reported countless times. I don't know how many times I've reported on daily attacks by Russia on innocent people, and not just women, not just men, but children as well. I remember I remember the Russian forces hitting a kindergarten, for crying out loud. They haven't targeted hospitals, as far as I'm aware. They may have targeted once, but children are getting killed in this fire by the strikes that the Russians are doing, and they launched an abomination of drones over Ukraine, and it infuriates me that this war is happening, and it doesn't have to happen. It shouldn't be happening in any way, shape, or form. I hate this so much, because because the Ukrainian people are desperate for this war to end, as they said in this video, but at the same time they cannot concede the lands that they've lost, and Russia wants more than that. And it's just, as Zelensky said, it's a very difficult situation, and I'm generally scared that Zelensky may, I really hope Zelensky does not cave into the demands of the territories. I really hope not, because the moment he does, it will open up a dangerous can of worms, not just for Ukraine, but so many other countries out there who will see this. It could potentially open the Pandora's box of World War III, because it would give other nations justification for declaring war on others over disputed territories that have always been. And they say, oh, well, if Russia are able to annex parts of territory and get away with it, and international law is not going to do anything about it, well, then we might as well do what we can do in this territory here, whether it's in Africa, or whether it's, or perhaps even Serbia and Kosovo there, or other parts of the world. Like, it's just going to open up more warfare on the planet if it does. Like, it's not just about Ukraine and Russia. My fear is that if they concede to this, there's going to be an even greater cost for the planet, never mind just for what's happening here in Europe. So President Donald Trump's special envoy is meeting with the Russian president today in Moscow for highly anticipated talks with that Washington hopes to convince the Kremlin to end the war in Ukraine, which I don't buy for a second. Fresh off negotiations with Ukrainian officials in Vladimir this weekend, the envoy Steve Witkoff is expected to lay out for Putin a version of the peace plan that Kiev has agreed to, hoping the Russian leader will compromise on these hardline demands. For months, Moscow has reiterated his readiness for peace, while also signaling that he's not willing to ease off the core maximalist demands, which would leave Ukraine weak and isolated. This will be, we have no doubt, a very important step towards a peaceful settlement, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said. Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner will also participate in the talks between Witkoff and Putin, Peskov has said. Russian state media followed Witkoff's plane arriving in Moscow, and then his motorcade driving away from the capital's Vinnytsia airport. Apologies for mispronunciations. State news agency TASS shared a video of Witkoff and Kushner walking around a festive Moscow just outside Red Square alongside one of Russia's key negotiators before their meeting with Putin. Shortly before the scheduled meeting with the American delegation, Putin addressed an investment forum which he said his army held the advantage in Ukraine, while criticizing European leaders for hindering the peace process. Russia has no intention of going to war with European countries, but if Europe starts a war, Russia is ready right now, Putin told reporters. They're not. Their country is not in a very good financially. Literally a prime example, I was listening to Inside Russia with Konstantin, and literally they're making cutbacks after cutbacks, and just one of many cutbacks that they're continuing to do is lots of train and tram buses in certain Russian cities have been reduced to help make up, to just as one example, to make up the cost of Russia's economy in the situation that it is in. It's becoming difficult for Russians, ordinary Russians. We're not talking about the oligarchs, I'm talking about the ordinary Russians there. But obviously they can't say anything, because if they do, they'll disappear. So life is getting harder for them out there. Roger Devine, good to see you there. Hope you are doing well. The detailed latest version of Trump's peace plan has not been released, and the original proposal approved by Trump last month was seen as heavily biased towards Russia and would have to force Kiev to cease its territory to Moscow, including the land that it currently controls. It would have limited the size of Kiev's army and barred Ukraine from ever joining NATO. The proposal blindsided Kiev, which launched a storm of negotiations in Europe and the US to try and amend the plan and make it more palatable to Ukraine. Putin invaded Ukraine. Yep, we know about this. Any resolutions that the US managed to broker could shape the future of not just Ukraine, but also the entire continent by either aligning with Russia and rewarding aggression or backing Ukraine and the security structures currently in place. The thing is, like, with all of this, like, I just don't buy that the deal that they will have on the table will be in benefit to Ukraine in any way, shape, or form. I just don't buy it, and I don't think you guys should either. I really don't buy it. Even if they come out saying, we've got a great deal, straight away I'm like, no, you haven't. No, you haven't. Because Moscow and Russia have not moved their positions in any way, shape, or form. And the only nation that has been moving position constantly has been Ukraine. Russia are not moving their positions. Like, I don't see... it does feel like, to me, a lot of it like a waste of time. Like, it does feel like a lot of it's a waste of time. And I think, yeah, we should be more... We should apply even stronger sanctions on Russia. But if somehow this Trump administration pulls a rabbit out of the hat and gets a ceasefire of some sorts between the two sides, I'll give credit is due, but it will not be without Ukraine pulling away, ceding territory to Russia, which without them ceding territory to Russia. That's the main thing that they will end up doing, which Ukraine must not do. They must not do. They must not cede the territories. Because if they do, Russia will come back for more, regardless of what's in the deal. Regardless. The US has no leverage to negotiate anything. They are the allies of the Russians, and it's what the people in the EU Parliament have already said. Yeah. The thing is, at the end of the day, no matter what, like, they can bully Zelensky as much as they want, but at the end of the day, it's Zelensky's head on a platter. It's his country, it's his people's head on a platter if he makes the wrong decision. He's facing pressure every day. The Americans are pressuring Zelensky to sign insane deals to end this conflict. And I don't think it's so much about. I don't think it's so much about America wanting to end the war. It's about making Trump look good. It's about making Trump look good. I feel more than about ending this war, and about money as well, because money is obviously the thing that makes Trump go round and round and round as well. So the next story I've got for you guys is not so much a story but a video, and I think it's a very important one here. I don't have a news article for it, but I'm going to play. I wanted to play this for you guys here. I've covered in short videos about the devastation that's happening in parts of Asia and on the other side of the world, where we have ravage floodings that are taking place and landslides and huge amounts of life that are being lost here. And Channel 4 put up this video literally a couple of hours ago on their YouTube channel, and I wanted to play it to you guys here because I think it's very, very important that what's happening here is really, really terrible. And I really do feel that a part of this is, like, a lot of this is natural, but it's been accelerated by man-made climate change issues as well.
In Sri Lanka, they are rescuing victims of torrential rainfall in what is a nationwide disaster. Flash flooding and landslides killing over 400 here, after a rare and simultaneous cluster of 3 tropical storms tore across Southeast Asia.
3 tropical storms.
The water out at sea is unusually warm due to man-made climate change, and that's helped trigger several unusually destructive cyclones with heavy rainfall. Even Colombo, the commercial capital, did not escape the worst floods in a decade.
In the night, things were normal. By next morning, everything was underwater, including our house. 7 of us, including children, took refuge on the top floor. There are another 15 adults still there. Their houses are completely underwater.
Sri Lanka's government has filmed its own rescue efforts with help from the Indian Air Force. But the scale of this disaster means that not everybody can be reached in time, and more than 15,000 homes have been destroyed.
As a country, we are facing the largest and most challenging natural disaster in our history. We also recognise that what we are undertaking is the most difficult rescue operation in our nation's history.
On the island of Sumatra in Indonesia, rivers burst their banks, and the water then submerged or swept away tens of thousands of homes. The death toll here, over 700, with hundreds of thousands more forced to flee. Abdul Ghani was told by neighbours that his house had disappeared, but he didn't believe it until he saw it for himself. He spent days crossing this mud-filled landscape, showing everyone a picture of Marsoni, his missing wife, hoping to find any trace of her so that he can hold a proper burial.
I just want my wife to be found, even if it's just a piece of her hand. As long as I can recognise her, that's enough.
In Thailand, they reckon they have seen the heaviest single event of rainfall in what may be hundreds of years, followed by days more of unrelenting downpours. Here, as elsewhere, public criticism of the government's response is mounting, with at least 180 dead. And across Southeast Asia, the effects of climate change are becoming an ever more urgent political issue.
And this is the problem. You know, when we don't, this is again, you know, and I'm sure myself and One Angry Pagan will touch on this more on Thursday, because we obviously talk about this kind of stuff. But once again, like, what are we doing here? You know, this is a result of the actions of that. Like, yes, a lot of it is natural weather, of course. But I do also have said, what are we doing to ensure and protect these nations? What are the governments of Sri Lanka, Indonesia and Thailand doing to adapt to the changes of climate? Do they have the resources? If they don't have the resources, what are we doing to ensure that these towns, these cities, these villages where some of them are, what are we doing to ensure that they can adapt to the changing of climate? Because these situations that they are going through are going to get worse. They're going to get worse for all of them. Every single one of them, it's going to get worse for them. And what are we doing about it? On an international base, as an international community, what are we doing about this? It's like, I have my criticisms of all three governments and what they are doing in response to this. And rightfully so, the people have every right to be angry about their governments not doing enough to address these issues, and they have every right to do so. But we also know that climate change is playing an impact as well. And we know that these weather events are only going to get worse. And what are we doing about it? We're just carrying on as normal. We have some events that are still, to this day, nations still feeling the effects. You know, I think of Haiti and what it had to go through with its with one of its worst earthquakes in decades, in years and years and years ago, and they're still, to this day, still haven't recovered from that. For me, personally, my heart goes out to these people, and I wish as an international, more in an international community, we would do more to help out these nations, rather than just sending bodies, sending food, aid, medicine, and sending people. I wish we were doing more, not just to help after these events, but taking action to prevent these events from happening. Because for me, it's more about prevention than recovery. That's the part of me that upsets me the more. We always seem to react, but we don't seem to do more to prevent. And it's really frustrating. And it's not fair, because innocent people die, people's homes are destroyed, people's lives are completely lost. And it's at no fault of their own. You know, we saw the man there who lost his wife, he's lost his wife, doesn't know where she is. He's lost his home. He's got literally nothing. No fault of his own. And he's lost everything, all because of what's happened. And there are countless stories like this. And it should not happen. And people in power need to be held more to account on this. It's just an absolute crying shame. It really, really is. My heart goes out to that man and everyone who is suffering out there right now. I really, really mean that. That's an impossible dream, making Trump look good, says Vicky. He will try in any way, shape, or form. Jal says, we knew these events would happen in more than 40 years ago. Now let that sink in. And then we have climate change deniers, yeah. So that the companies profiting on fossil fuels can transition their profits into other energy, Jal says. So then they change the name and it's the same game. Nationalise energy and water once for all. Yeah, just looking at the devastation from these nations, it's really terrible. You know, more than 1,000 people, the lives have been lost, and that's not even talking about those who have been recovered, those who are suffering injuries, those, and you know what's going to be done for all these people's their homes, their businesses, their livelihoods that have been flooded and have been destroyed. What's being done for all of them? You know, like, and it all comes at a cost. All these nations have got to find costs for all this as well, because it all comes at a cost. Not just the lives and that, but the money as well to all of it. But money should not be a factor when it comes to prevention. It should not be a prevention. Money should not be a factor, but money makes the world go round, I'm afraid. Dave McGuinness, good evening to you, my friend. Hope you are doing well. So I've got one last story for you guys. It's a bit of a short one here, but I wanted to touch on it. I don't have too much information apart from the I don't have too much on this apart from the story itself here. I did try to find some videos relating to this latest news, but unfortunately I don't here. So I can only give you what the headline is and what the piece is saying here on it, guys. But this is obviously a cause for concern, and unfortunately this is sadly it's something that I'm not surprised about. So violence has escalated in South Kivu as the M23 attacks government forces here. So what was supposed to be, as Donald Trump likes to say, agreement or a ceasefire has taken place in the Congolese, in parts of Congolese where the M23 have taken certain towns and villages. Yeah, it looks like that, you know, that kind of peace look like it's not going well. And Congolese people are not taking things on board. So let me read more into this, you guys. So clashes between the M23 rebel groups and the Congolese government forces supported by coalition troops broke out across South Kivu province on Tuesday today, escalating tensions in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. This is the same area again where there's been conflict, unfortunately. Reports on the ground indicate heavy fighting in many of the provinces there. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to butcher them, forcing many residents to flee and amid fears for their safety. Bernard Biswama, if I've mispronounced that, I apologise. The M23 leader confirmed the confrontations, while the group's spokesperson, Lawrence Akagola, accused government forces of launching attacks on densely populated areas. He described the situation as rapidly worsening and devastating for local communities. The outbreak comes shortly after a peace framework was agreed in Doha, Qatar on the 8th of November 2025, aimed at advancing talks between the M23 and Congolese government towards a lasting settlement. Despite this, both sides have previously blamed each other for breaking ceasefire commitments, raising doubts about the agreement's effectiveness. So yeah, as the we have this peace framework, and then we've just had this happen. The M23 currently controls significant portions of the North and South Kivu, including strategic cities Goma and Barkviglio, as well as Goma and Kamaru airports. Since rebounding in 2022 under the leadership of Biswama and Emmanuel Sultan Makarenia, the rebels have faced repeated accusations from the DRC government and received support from Rwanda, allegations both Kigali and the M23 deny. The group maintains that its campaign targets government corruption, discrimination and xenophobia within the Congolese political system. So yeah, it's at least the thing is right now, it's not like, I would say it's not the same as the ceasefires that we have between Israel and Lebanon and Israel and Gaza, where they're consistently daily attacks. I would think that's a fair thing to say, but it is certainly on a knife edge, and I hope it will stay in place, but I'm not holding my breath whatsoever about it. But unfortunately, this is all the news I have on this story. Obviously, if I get more, I'll report it as a short video for you guys. But yeah, Congo has been is a country, unfortunately, is one of the poorest and one of the most, and a country that really has nothing going in its favour as a nation, and its people really do suffer. They really, really do. I hope, but I'm not holding my breath for the country. I'm afraid, guys, which I'm sorry to say. So, guys, we've come to the end of the live stream, but before we do, we have our funny memes to see ourselves out. Fortunately, we didn't get any super chats tonight, unfortunately, but I do appreciate people making their way out to follow this, to watch this live stream. But like I said, the one thing about the global news about this live stream in particular is our funny memes. So hopefully the 5 I have for you here today, you'll get a laugh and a kick out of more than anything. So let's have a look and see what 5 funny memes we have today. If it will come up on my screen. Is it going to come up on my screen? No. Great. I need to refresh and try again. What about now? Are you going to come up now? Looks like you're going to come up now. Okay. I think I might be able to get it working. Okay, take it all with a pinch of salt. It's all funny banter, nothing to take seriously anyway. I got the worst one for the first one, guys. Men think it's okay to live like this. Women hate it how little it takes for us to be happy. You know, I'm really going to say this. Just leave men alone in this situation. If they just want a chair and a TV, let them just have a chair and a TV and leave them to their own devices, is what I will say. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can't unsee it, guys. Look at it. Come on. You can see it. You can see it. That's a great one. I might look calm in my head. I might look calm, sorry. But in my head, I've punched you in the face at least 3 times. How many of you feel like this when you're listening to someone there and you're like, yeah, I really feel like punching that person in the face? Some of you know that feeling. When your soul is dark and evil, and they ask you to smile. That is one of the most evil, vampiric, corrupt cats that you will ever lay eyes upon in your life, chat. You know it. Dear Black Friday, we all have big TVs now. Put them groceries on sale. Oh. For those who don't know the reference, this is from Eminem's song "Stan," where he used to, where in the video he goes, "Dear Stan." But instead, it's obviously "Dear Black Friday," where they put all these great deals on, but they can't seem to do it for groceries. They can't do it for the groceries, guys. What a terrible, terrible shame. There's your 5 funny memes for today. I hope you got a laugh out of them in some way, shape, or form. I really hope so. But yes, guys, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who came along. Thank you guys for all your comments. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for giving your time for time tonight. Really appreciate it. I'll be Max Robesby is hanging out in his chat at 8:30. While I'll also be doing work in the background as well, to be fair, because I have work to do tonight as well. I will get. I'm going to be going. I'm going to have dinner, and then once I have dinner, I'm going to get the timestamps and the details all done for you guys. And I will put a post out once the timestamps are done. So for those who missed the live stream, they can see where to look and whatnot, guys. Just for reference there. So yeah, on your way out, if you can for me, please hit that like button, share this across social media, follow the page, follow the page, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll be back live tomorrow at 11 a.m. so join me for that as well. Check out Rumble and Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms, and thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.